Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie or Cam, and welcome to the Everything Podcast. I'm here, as always, with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
Doing great, Cam. Happy New Year. And what do you know? But a year and a day ago at this time, the three people here on this screen were gathered for an episode of the Everything Podcast.
An
And
epic
here we are
episode.
again. One of the best. The
Yeah, one of
the
my
the big
favorites.
Spider-Man No Way Home and Cobra Kai season 4 episodes 1 through 4 we covered on it.
Over an
So
hour long.
yeah, that was a great podcast, and I'm psyched to have the three of us back here again. So yeah, I'm doing awesome, Cam. And how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, and if you couldn't tell, we have Mike here with us as our guest co-host today.
Great to be here. Just thinking about a year ago today, talking about, Spider-Man No Way Home and Cobra Kai. It was a phenomenal season of Cobra Kai this year. I have to admit, I'm a little unsettled that the next season of Cobra Kai has yet to be picked up. I don't think that's a topic for today's show, but in future shows, I think it's really something to dig into. Will there be a next season of Cobra Kai? And if so, would it be on Netflix? Will it be somewhere else? What is happening?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
let me. Yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Will.
Cam.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I just think what Netflix maybe like the more like at first I was really excited for Cobra Kai season 6, but the more that I've thought about it, this has come to my mind. I think the issue with season 6 and Netflix, which is known for dropping shows even like during their peak runs before they kind of fall off a cliff. I think this is what Netflix may be thinking about, and the reason that they might want to hear the script for season 6 before they approve it. Basically, every single storyline was came to a close by the end of season 5, except for John Kreese. Sam and Tori, their rivalry came to an end. Miguel and Robbie, their rivalry
Yeah,
came to an end. Daniel and Johnny were finally able to put aside their high school rivalry and come together to defeat Terry Silver. In season 6, obviously you would have John Kreese out there, but all the other great rivalries of the show came to an end at the end of season 5. So I feel like the issue with season 6 is that you would have John Kreese, but all the other storylines wouldn't be so strong because so many of them came full circle in season 5.
yeah, I see what you mean, but what I'm wondering is, what are they gonna do if it gets taken off Netflix? Where could they possibly go?
Oh, look, it's a big show, so I'm positive, some place would
I know it would
pick
be
them up.
cool to
I mean,
see.
it's a huge show, so I think some other place would pick them up. But Mike, do you think a different streaming platform would pick them up if Netflix wasn't willing to do it?
Great question. I do remember years ago there was a hit television comedy on either, I think it was on ABC. It was called Taxi. Christopher Lloyd, who went on to the Back to the Future movies, was in it. Danny DeVito. I mean, many, Judd Hirsch, many stars. Andy Kaufman was on there, and they got canceled by ABC. And this was unprecedented at the time. And if my memory serves me right, they were then picked up by NBC. So it's not unprecedented on a network level for that to happen. I wouldn't be shocked to see Netflix, discontinue and for them to be picked up by Amazon Prime or another streaming service. I think it would be a cash cow the next season, but Netflix is known for letting things go when they hit their peak. And also, I believe there could be cost involved in the expenditure the next season, and do the stars want more money and things
Yeah,
like that. But I think there's a lot of way. I think they're going to start expanding the Miyagi verse. To be honest, I think you're going to see spin-offs. I think you're going to see other things happening from the brand. Not that I know that. I know they're doing. I think both of you have mentioned before. I think there's a Broadway musical that's coming up.
yep,
So I think you'll be seeing other things. But will it be on Netflix? TBD, to be
yeah.
determined.
I don't know. It's too bad because I mean, eh, they'll probably lose a lot of viewers if it goes off Netflix because everyone has Netflix and it's one of the biggest shows on Netflix. So if it goes to Paramount Plus or Amazon, they'll have less viewers, which will stink. But I want to get into the Jeremy Renner situation. So this is bad. Will, I mean,
Yeah.
critical but stable condition is what we've been hearing.
Can you update me and maybe some of your viewers and listeners about exactly what's going on with Jeremy? I have a little bit of information, but not much.
So I think there was a snowplow accident, and his leg was run over by the snowplow, and his neighbor was a doctor and was able to provide some support there. But I know he did have to get airlifted out of the scene, out of the out of wherever he was, and there's actually a recording you can find on the internet of the helicopter taking off. But yeah, it looked rough. There was a lot of snow there, and so it must have been pretty rough. And I also know it's been being treated as an active crime scene because the snowplow it's supposed to have safety features to prevent things like that from happening, and it happened anyway. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that story develops, and it's really unfortunate that an actor that we all really like uh, from Hawkeye and Jason Bourne movies is in such critical condition. You know, it's not a good thing I want to wake up to this morning.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all that you can do is wish him all the best, and I think it's really good that he doesn't have some like next big Hawkeye project coming up, at least that we know of, because with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, you had Letitia Wright suffering injury on set, but
Mm-hmm.
they were able to get over that and still finish the
But I think
movie.
that was
But
a more minor injury than
right,
what
right, right.
Jeremy
Yeah.
suffered.
Obviously not this, but like I mean, if he still had some like if he was still very much involved in the MCU and had some big Hawkeye project coming up, this could, threaten to postpone that a bit. So I think
Yeah.
it's good that, his time in the MCU, seems to be coming to an end with the introduction of the Kate Bishop character, and that he can just focus on, you know, making the trail back to full health without having to worry about some big Marvel project that he has to do with his Hawkeye character. But obviously, just the best that you can do is just wish him well. And as you said, Kim, I have a ton of respect for him as an actor. I thought he was excellent as Hawkeye. The show Hawkeye is one of my favorite MCU products. It was just so fun. So obviously, wishing him all the best.
Yeah, and it's also too bad because he has a season two of a show that he has, Mayor of Kingstown,
Okay.
and season two, episode one airs January 15th. So this was, I don't think I'll be able to do any press for the show, which
That's
is
a tough one,
horrible.
yeah.
Yeah, not what you want to see.
Obviously, yeah, obviously feel for him there. Yeah, Mike, any thoughts?
Well, I'm hoping that season was already in the can and fully shot. They
Yeah,
usually don't release it until it's done. Yeah, a couple thoughts like you both captured, just wishing Jeremy well. I'm also loved Hawkeye, like you both have said. I thought it was so well done, such a fun, and it actually had a holiday theme. I think was it this time last year that
Yep.
had just been on, and loved. Who was the actress who played Kate Bishop again?
Haley.
Haley
Yeah,
Steinfeld.
Who was fantastic, and Will and I saw her in another Western where she was fantastic, that she was nominated for an Oscar for. I'm all on board with Kate Bishop coming into the MCU, but I'm not ready for Jeremy to leave in his
yeah. There
role of
needs to be
Hawkeye.
because he never had a
I want
proper.
him
He hasn't
back.
had a proper exit yet.
And recently, off camera this week, because I'm doing some visiting here in the state of Massachusetts, where one of the host camp freights resides, I was saying, Will, that I believe actually that the Hawkeye character could have existed in the Netflix Marvels shows because
As
he
a
is
street
more.
level hero.
That's exactly what I said. He's like a street level hero.
Yeah,
I
I,
think that's an excellent point, actually, now that you mention it. Like, yeah, no superpowers, just a bow and arrow. Yeah, like if you had to pick a character who could fit into the like Defenders saga, for instance, it would definitely be someone like him for sure.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
Loved to have seen it.
All right. So now, moving off this depressing news with a depressing movie. I had a chance to see The Whale today, and
Oh boy.
it was a sad movie. Um, I thought it was a very well made movie, a very well done movie, well acted. But yeah, it was very sad. I wouldn't. There were a lot of people crying at the theater I was in. I
Mm.
saw a lot of people getting emotional, and I mean, Brendan Fraser just did such a great job with this. I mean, he should definitely be up for an Oscar because he probably had to go through a lot of emotional highs and lows while filming this movie. I mean, it's just such a complex character to play, and it just must have been so hard on him, you know. But I thought he handled everything really well. I thought he was fantastic. And Sadie Sink, obviously of Stranger Things fame, was really good. I really hated her character, and that's what she was supposed to do. So props to her. I mean, she was fantastic, and Hong Chow, who plays one of Brendan Fraser's friends in the movie, she was also fantastic. She plays a really tough role as well, because she has to be his friend, but she also has to be his nurse in a way, kind of,
Mm.
because he's so sick and not healthy. I mean, it's just it was an emotional roller coaster. I mean, I would if you want to see a Oscar worthy movie, I would definitely recommend checking it out. But go in expecting it's going to be incredibly sad.
Well, I've heard great Oscar buzz about Brendan Fraser's performance, and Will and I had been talking about. Will, remember how I think you mentioned to me that Sadie Sink was in this film, and I heard good things also as well about her performance in there. She is one of the stars from Stranger Things that I do believe is going to be able to transition into having a career, an adult career in acting. So, yeah. So on Cam, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have a rating for this film?
I have this at an 8 out of 10. Not a perfect film, because they they don't leave his house, which is the opening scene, like 30 seconds at the beginning, which are show a bus, and then there's a very very short flashback to a beach, but it all takes place in the house, so it feels very locked in. It feels very closed in, you know, and it's not a great feeling to have when you're watching a movie. It's very like, oh yeah, we've seen this before. We just saw this. But for the most part, the movie works really well. It's just a fantastic film. But Uncle, but Mike, yeah. You actually brought up a good question. Who out of all the main Stranger Things cast will go on to have a successful career? That's actually a really
Yeah.
interesting question.
If 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 I could say something about this quickly, these are at least of like the youngest cast, the seven or so characters who the show kind of revolves around the four boys, 11 and Max. Millie Bobby Brown has had the two Enola Holmes films on Netflix, and
Plus
then you
the
have
Godzilla franchise.
okay, yeah, oh, okay, and then Sadie Sink with this film.
And she
Those
was in
two,
a movie called Fear Street,
oh,
and
cool,
it was a series of movies that took place over a few years. I never watched them, but Maya Hawke was also in one. There were three of them,
nice,
and they were
nice.
well received. So that's
Cool.
also
But
another.
like, yeah, in terms of like me and my followings of the Stranger Things cast outside of them in the show, to me it seems like Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink have had the most success so far. Millie Bobby Brown with her two Netflix films, Sadie Sink with this film. So to me, I would go with those two so far as the ones who I think have a chance to have a career after Stranger Things. But Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, in agreement. It seems like the female actors already have a foot in another world. Although, who was the one, Will, who was in the Ghostbusters
Finn
Afterlife?
Wolfhard.
Yeah. And so, not that that was a huge blockbuster, but I think they're doing another movie in that series as well. But I definitely
I
think, and
totally agree with you.
I think though Cam brought up someone who I hadn't thought of before. So I think Sadie Sink and Millie Bobby Brown, but I also think Maya Hawke has an
Yeah,
opportunity because she's kind of coming in as an adult already, and she's the child of two Hollywood actors, and so I think she has an opportunity to have a career. I could see her as an independent film, type
yeah,
person, and making her way that way. Uh, those are my thoughts. Happy to have any of the actors make that transition, but it's just so difficult. I think Noah Schnapp may have an opportunity too. I've watched him. That's how he carries himself. But you just never know. You
yeah.
just never know.
So I'm actually thinking, Millie Bobby Brown. Yes, she could be big, but I think she's better off not using her American accent. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's just because in Stranger Things, obviously she uses that accent, and it works perfectly because she didn't. She came into the show not really knowing how to talk and communicate. But when I watched her in Godzilla vs Kong, where she also had an American accent, it it also could be because I'm used to Stranger Things and hearing Eleven talk. But it was really weird because I just felt like there was just like less emotion in her voice or something. Because when she's using her regular accent in Enola Holmes, she's fantastic. Because I saw the first Enola Holmes, I haven't watched the second one, but she's fantastic in that. But in Godzilla vs Kong, she just flat. It's just boring to watch her, which is a weird thing. And I obviously think Sadie, after seeing her in this movie, I think she's capable of getting any big role that she wants. I mean, this and the Fear Street movie, which I know was really good. Yeah, I think she'll be definitely up to be in some more big movies. But Finn Wolfhard, yeah, he's been. I know he's going to be in a new A24 movie, A24 production company that produced The Whale. They've made some incredible horror movies like Hereditary and Midsommar. Um, so him getting to work with A24 is a really cool thing because I feel like he's just a perfect actor for that. I know he had a band too at one point. I'm not sure what it was called. Will, do you know the name of his band?
I don't, but I do know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. And then that band broke up, and now he has some other band that he's in, as far as I know.
Yeah. So I also know he's been doing some voice acting because in the animated Adams Family film, he was in that, and he was just in the I think it was the newest Pinocchio film of this year. He not sure who he played because I have no interest in watching that movie, but I know he was a big part of that movie as well. So I think, and obviously Ghostbusters and the It franchise, he's had a very solid acting career in as well. So Finn Wolfhard, yeah, I've been really impressed by the things the things he's done. You know, he's just seems like a creative person who's a really talented actor. Even though I don't love his character in Stranger Things.
Well, in terms of his character, Mike, I loved Mike in season one. Mike, as you once said to me, he was like Elliot from E.T. in that you were like seeing the show through his eyes. So I loved his character in season one, thought he was so caring toward the 11 character, but I think his character was kind of like started to like make some more mistakes as the season has gone on. So in terms of his character, Mike, I think he had a great season one and then kind of tailed off a bit. But I am glad that you brought him up, Cam, because I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife and I thought that was just such a fun film. I thought he was excellent in it, and I'll be curious to see what the sequel is about. Due out in theaters, I believe, December 2024, so next year. So yeah, I would maybe put him maybe third or so after the two that I mentioned previously.
Yeah, But now I'd like to shift to Avatar and the Way of Water, which both of you have seen. I have not yet, and once I see it, we can talk about it some more on the podcast. But I just want you guys to give your opinions on the movie, especially you, Mike, because Will, we've heard a little from you on the
Right.
movie, but I'd love to hear some more info without spoiling it. But
Yeah. Of course, with no spoilers. I mean, I shared my thoughts last uh podcast. I think so. Mike, I really want you to be able to comment. I think I'm gonna settle on an 8 out of 10 for this film. Still a visually stunning experience, but I think just a little bit under the original Avatar. But Mike, I really just want to give you the floor here because I know you and Fozzie have had some back and forths on your rating for this film, so I would love the chance for the two of you to be able to maybe talk about that as well. But like, really, I just want to give you the floor here because you haven't had the chance to comment on this film yet, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Thank you both. Yeah, let's just put out a spoiler alert just in case I say something. I'm not intending to spoil it for anyone because I hate when people do that for me. I've given a number grade, but I'm going to start off with my letter grade. And my letter grade is B, but it stands for breathtaking. There is no higher grade in my letter grade. B is the highest. This is a visually stunning, sensory engrossing, epic tale from start to finish. There are things I experienced as a moviegoer in the audience that I've just never experienced before. And, I'm not the one. I had an exchange through electronic correspondence with Fozzie, host of the show. And, in part of that exchange, I was just really pointing out that, yeah, what if I come into a movie theater and I'm not a person who necessarily goes and wants a blockbuster movie. I'm not that person. But if I have a visual experience that I've never had before and it's a portal into another world, um, what more can I want from stepping into a cinema? I thought they took the story in a whole other direction. I thought there was an expansion on the characters who were launched in the first Avatar. And I'm late to the Avatar journey. I never saw the original until last fall when it was re-released. I'm not even a James Cameron necessarily fan. It's not like I was a rave about the Terminator or other projects that he has been involved with. I wasn't a big fan necessarily of Titanic. But these two Avatar films, I'm just like there's such a great visual journey and odyssey. So I think it's if someone loves theater, loves movie going, I can't see not kicking up your $10 to $15 and making the trip to the cinema. Got to be in 3D. You got to do it that way.
yeah,
Anyone who didn't have an opportunity to see the first film on the big screen, I think that could impact, how you would look at the franchise because it's meant to be seen on the big screen.
yeah, I get it, and yeah, and I know he, like you just said, it's for the big screen people to experience that, but it also has to stand on its own as an actual good movie. And I totally get it. I totally get it being wanting to make a real movie theater movie, and that's kind of what Top Gun was, except I also think it can stand on its own. Um, that is something I feel like at least the first Avatar was missing. It wasn't able to stand on its own and be something outside of a outstanding theater experience. All right, so
I love the story in the original Avatar. So if I saw it on the small screen, I think I would have been fine. I liked the story. I liked the whole pilgrimage of the Avatar and him entering into another world. And I followed that storyline, and I thought the story was strong in the Way of Water as well. So there are other themes that it's working on where it's not just a film. Because I've had other things that were supposedly a great visual experience. If it was just a good visual experience, and the story sucked and the pacing was off, the movie wasn't good and the music wasn't there, tying it all together, um, it's not going to do it for me. As they
yeah,
always say, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. It's got to be a good story. And I found both of them, the original Avatar story and this one, engrossing as well. and was drawn into the
Yeah.
characters and was rooting for them the whole way.
Let me ask you this, Mike, because something I kind of thought of after this second movie, Avatar: The Way of Water, is like, boy, like what more can they do? Like, how much more epic can they get than they've already done? Apparently, like the story for the fourth film was like so extraordinary that like they told James Cameron should literally make no changes to it because it's so good reportedly. But like, tell me what you think, Mike. But I'm kind of thinking like, what more can they do if they make future films? Maybe they could be like as good or like as visually breathtaking. But I don't see like what more can they do from here is kind of my thoughts, Mike. Like I like how much more epic can you get?
Yeah, good question. I'm also not a big fan of sequels often. It depends. You got to really earn it with a sequel, especially if the first one made a strong impression. So I don't know where they go from here, but obviously I think there were two big sequels this year, and unusual in that there was a gap of time, a huge gap of time in the Top Gun movies. And Top Gun's another interesting one in that I wasn't a huge Top Gun fan, but I loved Top Gun Maverick. And that there was such a gap of time between Top Gun and its sequel, and now it's even a gap of time between the original Avatar and this. I don't know, Will, where they go next, but I think Cameron has a vision. James Cameron definitely has the vision.
That
I
is for
oh
sure. And I think the things really, really quick, what I love most about this Avatar franchise are its messages. The first one being about protecting our forests, the second one being about protecting our oceans. I think those are really important messages to get out into the world right now. So I think, that's something that I
of
love the most
course.
about these two Avatar films. But yeah, anyway, Cam, the floor is yours.
I've heard people theorizing online that the first one was air, the second water, obviously, and the third fire. I mean, that would be a pretty
I mean, I've heard how like each film will have a different biome, like, forest, water, I guess like they could do like the mountains, the desert. So yeah, I'll be very curious to see where they, you know, continue to go.
yeah. That would I mean, it would be really interesting to see how they change it up, how they progress the story of Jake Sully, and I really want to see how it progresses in Way of Water. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about our New England Patriots, since we're all Pat fans here, and their little playoff run that they're having here. Unexpected, but I'm happy about it. And do I think they're gonna get far? No, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Mike, on the Patriots' playoff run here.
Well, thanks, Cam. So as the season ended today, the Patriots would in fact make the playoffs. It's still a big what if. They have to win next week against Buffalo, and that'll be a tough challenge.
Yeah,
However, throughout a lot of this season, what I've been hearing from those of my friends and family connections about this season for the New England Patriots, the word that often comes up starts with a T, and it's train wreck. Everyone will talk train wreck of a season. They're doing horrible. You watch the games, it looks like how does this team even manage to score? And yet, after 16 weeks, what is their record? 8-8, sitting on the cusp of the playoffs.
yeah.
And Will, maybe you want to share what you heard on some of the talking heads in the sports world. What the man who I hate, but I'm intrigued to see what his take was. Rex Ryan had to say earlier today.
Yeah, so I'll just say this take, and then Mike, I'll turn it back to you, and you give your takes, you give your thoughts. Rex Ryan on Get Up this morning said that he thinks this might be Belichick's best coaching job. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think you can make a case for it. Now you have to also look at him as a general manager, right? And maybe um, how he decided to align his staff this year, coaching staff. Did that put the players in the best success positions to be successful? Big question mark there. But I believe from in all of the post Brady era that Belichick's been masterful as a coach. And in the first in the Cam Newton experiment, how they were winning certain games and throwing for less than 100 yards and still coming out with a W, I mystified me. Then next season, bounce back, 10-7, making the playoffs. Obviously, they went down in a deplorable fashion when they played Buffalo. But I think Buffalo was just at the peak of their performance at that time, and the Patriots' weaknesses got exposed.
Yeah.
This has been a grind of a season, but I do believe, and talking to some Patriots insiders that I know, last three drafts very strong for the Patriots, and Belichick is one to play the long game. And he might have come into this season and knew the product that he had, but he was playing towards their ability level, but also pacing things for probably 1 and 2 years out. So could this be Belichick's best coaching season? I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but I still think he's at the peak of his talent. And I'll say this as someone who lives in the Bay Area and in California, along with Will, there'll be times I'll be Will listening to 95.7 The Game, and they'll talk about Belichick and the coaching that he's doing. They're like, how are they even winning games? I mean, they'll see him as a depleted talent roster. I don't necessarily agree with that,
Yeah.
but still, it's not like they have the marquee players who are going to be marching to the Pro Bowl. They might have one or two representatives, and yet 8-8, right? Then they could be really 10-6. There's a couple games that they should have won.
Let me say this as well. Bill Simmons on his podcast actually wasn't wanting the Patriots to make the playoffs because he thought, they'll just get in there losing the wild card round. He thought that if they continued to lose games, it could put them in a better spot in the NFL draft in the spring to get a high quality player. So I do think that's a solid point.
That is a really good point.
Think about it because if they get into the playoffs, like, do you really think they're going to get past the wild card round? I don't think so with the way that this offense has looked all year. So I think Bill Simmons brings up a very valid point there.
Yeah, that's a tremendous point, and I think you're right, Mike. Bill has been a good drafter for the past few years, except for well, you said past 3 years, but 4 years ago, I believe he drafted N'Keal Harry over A.J. Brown, which still upsets me to this day. But yeah, I see what you're saying there, and he's impressed me as a coach. That whole Cam Newton disaster. I mean, they handled it as well as they could have. I mean, he did what he could have. He did what he could do with the team that he had, and that's kind of, as a Patriots fan, all I could ask for from him.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think about what Bill Simmons had to say about if the Patriots lose games, it could get them a better spot in the NFL draft?
Well, first off, hats off to Bill Simmons. He's just the master. When I listen to him on the air and the skill set and just his ability to not only inform but also entertain. Bill's definitely coming down when I've been listening to him recently of, hey, Patriots, welcome to the world of mediocrity. He really seems to be framing it that way and seeing where that's where it's headed. I'm not necessarily on that page. I also remember a little more than a year ago, Bill Simmons was saying the Patriots were going to be in the Super Bowl. So, you got to ride the roller coaster, right? Or at least us who are in the fans and in the media, there's often a roller coaster that you're on in moment to moment reactions and pontificating and responding. But really, the job the coaching staff and everyone is to play the long game. And I've been saying to Will, when we've been talking about the Patriots this year, I said, I'm really not ready to make any kind of pronouncements about it this year until next year. I really see him as a combined package. So the story is yet to be written. And I actually think brighter things are ahead. However, I'm not totally comfortable with the Matt Patricia experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously got to do something at the offensive coordinator spot. And also, I said this, last podcast, and I'll say it again. Even if Mac Jones hasn't had the greatest season, let's properly judge Mac Jones once he gets some weapons around him. But the final thing that I'm going to say is this. I believe that the Patriots culture has had very strong moments in the post Brady era, including, last season when they got to number 1 in the AFC and they were talked about as a Super Bowl contender with one of the elite defenses in the entire NFL. But you also can't deny what having Tom Brady does for you
Yeah.
as a team. He takes, players who were not very talented per se and can turn them into successful wide receivers or successful running backs. So this is a guy who in his first season in Tampa Bay in a COVID year led them to a Super Bowl. Well, their defense was awesome too, but you can't deny what he did. You can't deny the leader that Tom Brady is and what having him can do for your team. And I think the Patriots were very fortunate to have someone like that for not 1 decade, but 2 decades.
Yeah, but I think Belichick needs to realize that he can't have Jacoby Myers be our number 1 wide receiver anymore, or players of that same skill level. That just can't happen. We need a good. We need really good players, and we don't have that in our wide receivers. I mean, Hunter Henry has. I mean, he's a good tight end, I guess. Um,
I think we have to watch with Thornton how he emerges as,
yeah,
one of the fastest guys in the league. They made some big payment investments in some wide receivers who had some impact, but also had the ability to drop the ball. Or, I look at the disappearance of Kendrick Bourne this year as an eyebrow raiser. Obviously, he got in
yeah,
Matt Patricia's doghouse early in the season, and I don't know if they decided to stay on what their principles of culture were over putting talent on the field. I actually think they're very talented on the defensive side of the ball.
yeah,
Like, and I think they will only grow to be. I'm loving what I was seeing out of Kyle Duggar yesterday, and I think that there's a tremendous amount of talent and depth there. I think there's talent and depth at the running back position
yep.
as
Damien
well.
Harris,
I
Ramondre
actually think,
Stevenson.
yep, I think there are a few pieces actually away on the offensive side of the ball with the right offensive schemes. It just felt like the defense always knew what the offense was going to do so many times and were able to snuff it out this season. And I think there's a lot to be done in the scheming area going into next year.
Yeah, and I mean we'll have time. We have a long off season to go over plays and adjust things. So use your time wisely, Patriots coaches. Um, but now I'd like to transition to our NBA MVP predictions. Will, why don't you go first here?
First of all, what a season of just dominant superstar play we've had in the NBA. The way that Steph Curry started the season before he got injured. As a Warriors fan, the guy never ceases to amaze me with what he's still able to do. And as you say to me many times, Mike, seemingly getting better in many ways at age 34. Jason Tatum and how he put himself into the MVP conversation with the Celtics flaming hot start to the season. Luka Doncic and the dominant run he's had recently. Jokic, Giannis, Durant is playing incredible right now. I mean, we are still at the peak of just incredible superstar play in the NBA. I think a valid argument could be made for many, if not all, of the people who I just mentioned. But look, maybe he doesn't have the team around him, but I'm watching the way that Luka Doncic is playing recently. The guy's just incredible. And this last week, he's had like 2 triple doubles, and then he had a 50-point game. I mean, the guy is just wrecking havoc on the league right now, and he's going to be a superstar for years to come. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick him as my MVP. So, Mike, what do you think?
I echo a lot of what you said. Look at a season of, you could legitimately make a case of 5, if not 6 players who have MVP credentials. And Steph Curry would be right there in that mix, if not for the injury. right? That's kind of taking him off the radar screen. Obviously, I want to make a case for Jason Tatum as a Celtics fan, and you're still seeing that case being made around the league, and I do think he's in the top 3 contention. I've always fallen a little bit on the Joker not being completely sold by his resume because of shortcomings in the playoffs. Yet they had a big win, obviously, in a dominating win against the Celtics last night. And I think Jokic was looking to make a statement game. For Luka, I got to see more from him on the defensive side of the ball, I think, although what he's doing offensively is going to be unprecedented. And at his age, he's going to continue. You can make a case for Antetokounmpo. Giannis is playing dominant ball, but I'm going to change my position, Will, from conversations that we've had off the air over the past couple of weeks, and you're probably going to be surprised at what I'm going to say. I am predicting.
Are you going with KD?
I'm going with Kevin Durant. What I'm seeing out of those Brooklyn Nets is scaring me right now, and it's not what I want to see, but what I fear is happening. They're coming together as a team. Do I still think that Kyrie Irving is a loose cannon? Yup. Do I think something could explode at any time? I do. However, I think he was significantly humbled by his latest, off the court fiascos and statements that kept him away from the team. If they're winning and they got Ben Simmons out there shooting 1 for 2 at games with 8 boards and 2 assists, and that's enough. But Durant has been dominant right now at both ends of the court, and I think he's playing with a vengeance. I actually think he's playing with a vengeance, and he's looking to shut up the haters. With a team like Boston, as dominant as Tatum is, sometimes when you have 2 dominant stars, because Jaylen Brown is having an otherworldly season. He's emerging in his own way on some levels as much as Tatum, and sometimes that cancels things out a little bit where Durant is the man. That is clear. Even with Irving on the court. And what Irving just does is allow Durant to even be more dominant. I'm going to pick Kevin Durant as this year's MVP.
I think that is a completely valid pick. And allow me to say this. KD disappointed me by getting swept by the Boston Celtics in the NBA playoffs last year. I looked at him as the best player in the NBA up until that point. I think what he did in his first, full healthy season, where he basically dragged the Nets to 7 games against the Bucks, had a stunning game 5, a stunning game 7. I mean, the guy just scared the hell out of me, whenever the Warriors would play him. I mean, I just thought he was just such a dominant player. But, after this past season, with him getting swept in the playoffs and the Warriors winning the title, I was like, boy, I think this makes it realize that the Warriors that KD needed the Warriors as much as people made the argument that the Warriors needed KD and wouldn't have won those 2 titles without KD. So look, Durant, he went down a bit for me with his sweep by the Celtics in the playoffs last year, and I do think, especially after what happened back in June, he has to prove that he can win a title without Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But still, when the guy is playing at an elite level, he is just incredible. I mean, he's so tall. He can just rise up above. Like, I swear, you could just be guarding him, and he could just go like, boop, rise up right above your head and sink a dagger shot. The guy is incredible. He is obviously on a mission to get a title without the Golden State Warriors. And as you said, Mike, shut up the haters. So I think that's an incredibly valid MVP pick.
I'm really intrigued at what Fozzie is going to have to say.
Yes.
Where he's going to come with things. Will, are you hearing Fozzie right now?
Not at the moment. I'm not. Are you hearing him or no?
I think we had some slight audio difficulties.
Got it. I can hear you loud and clear. Cam, fire away.
Off camera, we had another family member, an uncle Steve Coughlin, was working the audio for this particular episode, and obviously he had some failings during that stretch. So on behalf of the Coughlin family and Steve Coughlin, Dr. Coughlin, I'm apologizing for his audio performance for all of all of the fans of the Everything podcast.
Well, I don't think anyone accepts his apology, and I think he'll have to make it up to everyone himself. But I think an argument could definitely be made for Nikola Jokic, but
Absolutely.
he has also won the MVP two years in a row. Is it? So that makes it a little more unlikely that he'll win. And obviously, like you guys said, you guys pretty much said it all. An argument can be made for Giannis. An argument can be made for Jason Tatum. Um, there are a lot of dominant players right now in the NBA. So the safest bet would probably be Luka Doncic, that's what you said. But right now, I want to go on a limb and say Giannis because
Sure.
he can just be so dominant at times
Absolutely. I think, yeah.
on both ends of the court. I mean that's something like you said, Mike. Luka just doesn't have yet. He's dominant on the offensive side, but not as strong on the defensive side. So
Giannis has won a defensive player of the year. So the guy is
exactly,
just a
yeah.
force at both ends of the court as you're saying him. I think that's a completely valid MVP pick.
He's one, when the Celtics play the Bucks, I hate Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think like he's a whiner out there or something like that. But I got to be honest, if I don't have my Celtics goggles on, I love that guy. I think he plays with integrity. He's there. He shows up. He plays the game the right way. He's unselfish. Unlike some athletes, he comes to camp in shape. He's always looking to improve and add to his game. He takes accountability when he's not playing well. He praises other players from other teams when they've played well. He doesn't make excuses. So I have nothing but respect for Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's actually one of my most respected
Yeah.
players in the league who doesn't wear a Celtics uniform.
Yeah, and one of the most in my time watching the NBA, which obviously does not nearly go as far back as you like, but in my time watching the NBA, one of the most dominant finals performances I have seen is Giannis in Game 6 against the Suns back in July 2021. I mean, you want to talk about proving yourself in the NBA playoffs? Talk about what Giannis did that entire playoff run. There were questions about him. I remember they went down 2-0 to the Nets. People were disappointed in him, calling his MVPs into question, saying he wasn't as good in the playoffs as he was in the regular season. He suffered an injury in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. People didn't even know if he was going to play in the finals. He came out and absolutely wrecked havoc on the Phoenix Suns, and the Bucks got the backward sweep. So that's when he really proved himself as a player to me. I mean, he absolutely owned the 2021 NBA Finals, and I just think he's been dominant in the playoffs ever since and is going to consistently, for many more years to come, be one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's
And
interesting that three Celtics fans, nobody picked Tatum.
I don't think I could do it because that would just make me seem too biased. I don't think I could say that on the podcast.
I would try to make up as a Warriors fan. I would try and make up an argument for Steph Curry, but with the injury that he has right now, I just know that that's not a realistic argument to make at the moment. But I really quick, I would like to give my team a shout out because without Steph Curry, they're on a 4-game winning streak right now. They really seem to be finding their identity. So as a fan, I want to give my team a shout out right now because I honestly could not be happier with what I'm seeing. Not just being down Steph Curry, but being down Andrew Wiggins as well, who everybody seems to agree on was the Warriors' second best player on the court, not named Steph Curry during their finals run last season.
Yeah, and that is impressive. Obviously, I mean, Steph obviously is a big part of why the Warriors are so successful.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, they don't win titles without Steph Curry.
No.
It is scary to me at times how much they rely on him being healthy. I mean, I think it can be alarming at times, but they're obviously doing well now. And Let me ask the two of you, how do you feel about the Celtics right now as Celtics fans?
I'm happy. I mean, Joe has just come in here and taken over the team. I mean, I am very impressed from what I've seen after just getting a completely different head coach. I'm impressed with what the team has been able to do. But what about
Mike?
you, Mike?
Oh yeah, it's been a thrilling season so far, and what I like is many things. And Cam already hit on a 34-year-old coach coming in, really hadn't been big time on the bench in an NBA situation before, and how he's come into it. And I think he reflects. I think he was someone who the players were rallying behind, before even the position was announced. So he had that going in his back pocket. But what I like is how this team has responded to losing the finals. They've done what great teams do is they took it personally and then looked to take their own games to another level. And then the Brogdon factor, Malcolm Brogdon coming in and being able to stabilize that bench units when needed, and the advancement of we've already talked about, or I have anyway, Tatum and Brown, but I continue to be impressed with the point guard performance of Marcus Smart. We always talk about him as defender, but I've been watching him a few of these games, and just his assist to turnover ratio is fantastic this year. But it's all not just the assists he's making, but how he's making them, threading the needle on difficult passes. Bringing now Williams, the Time Lord, coming back in and working him back into the rotation. If you've been studying anything about the analytics in the game that Derek White the season that Derek White is having, there is a lot to like. And then there's a lot to like about the players themselves and their character, their integrity, no drama, and being together as a unit. I'm real excited about this Celtics team.
I think the Warriors and the Celtics both have great cultures in terms of their players liking liking playing for each other. Really, there really seem to be family environments with both teams, and everybody really enjoys playing for um playing on their team. So I think the Warriors and the Celtics have two of the best cultures in the NBA right now, and I think the Warriors that's really proven with how things have gone. The Draymond Green punch back in October that could break certain teams. Didn't break the Warriors, so I think their culture really proved itself there. And I think the Warriors and the Celtics have two of the best cultures going in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. Well, but yeah, I've been really happy from what I've seen from the Celtics this season.
As you should be.
And you should be excited about where the Warriors are going as long as
Right.
Curry gets healthy and stays healthy.
Yeah.
Then you guys should also be in for a successful season.
Yeah.
So I think that about wraps up today's episode of the Everything Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Will, it's been awesome as always. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. Goodbye.